is going to win this one?
I think it's really draw dependent. If Pat draws a Thalia, he can usually race Josh's game one draws, and obviously the play matters for that as well.
Right.
He can also Green Sun Zenith for Gaddock to dodge sneak attack.
Right.
It doesn't help against show and tell, but
yeah, show and tell is real scary for him. At least game one. And then does he have any O-rings in his deck? Ooh, he doesn't.
Doesn't have a single one.
So show and tell is the card that Josh Adams gets to do here. He gets an Emrakul into play, and there's not a whole lot Pat Cox can do about it. He can try and race it. Not easy to do. Now Josh is on 6, so it's going to be a little more difficult for him.
And that Gaddock is going to guarantee that sneak attack is not Josh's route to victory.
Right. And he has no cards game one to actually get around a Gaddock. It looks like.
So he's not going to be Force of Willing. He is not going to be casting sneak attack this game.
He's not going to be misdirecting either. So Brainstorms, looks like end of turn. I see a show and tell. I do not see a target. You know what he could do though? He could show and tell in a sneak attack.
He can.
Just if oh, I see. He responded
right.
and dazed it. All right, so
that's really important.
That is very important. We're not gonna have to worry about a turn to Gaddock.
That would completely change the dynamic of the match.
Yeah.
And Pat missing land drop 2, we didn't even talk about because
we were so excited about
the Gaddock.
Gaddock.
I mean, a turn 2 Gaddock, even if you miss your second land drop, you're super happy.
Yeah. So Pat Cox, he's got plenty of guys who can play on 2. Thalia would be great here too. Also, Sylvan would be fine. And it's Kasali Pride Mage. So Josh Adams, the Brainstorm. He has a show and tell, so he can, he can sneak attack something, but he just doesn't have a. Sometimes his deck it has 7 targets. Josh has just been able to sort of brainstorm twice and has seen a lot of the same cards, so.
Yeah, that's a pretty aggressive brainstorm. You can kind of sit on those more because if you're just seeing the same cards again, it's not like.
Yeah, I would have
really much value.
waited at least one turn just to see a
fresh
set of cards, right? Like. That's one of the things about Brainstorm is that it's a card that the first one you see so much. And then if you get a little overzealous with it, you just see one more card. You really have to be very patient with them, and especially a deck like Josh's that he's looking really hard for one of only 4 cards in the deck, or only 7 cards in the deck.
Yeah, coming in for 5 damage. That 2/2, 3 exalted triggers there.
Right. So it's an interesting dynamic where Josh has to do 2 things. 1, he has to get something to sneak attack in, and 2, he needs to do it very quickly without dying, and that leads to early brainstorming.
Yeah, and it's a strange thing. Like I haven't played much combo in Legacy, which is strange because I'm kind of a combo player at heart. But
upkeep, he's going to kill the Lotus Petal. See, in the old days, you could have floated that to your draw step and brainstorm then, but not anymore. Josh Adams gets a little bit of a reprieve with that, actually. He gets a little more time. Pat Cox can't know that Josh just doesn't have anything to do. If he casts a 2-drop, ideally it's a Thalia if he has one, but otherwise his turn is much slower. He was on a clock really where even Progenitus might not have been enough for Josh Adams. And Scavenging Ooze.
And then he can still come in for 2 here with this Noble Hierarch.
Right. Or he can start removing his own creatures and the next turn hit for more. He's going to brainstorm in response. Uno, dos, tres. There's Progenitus. So that will give him something to do. And because, it's kind of weird. If he had been able to attack for 5 this turn, that would have taken Josh down to or that would take Josh into 9.
And
then
then
if he
the
plays
Scavenging Ooze and
the Scavenging Ooze, actually gets because it gains Petcock's life. The Progenitus would not have been able to just successfully attack twice. Josh would have died before that happened. But Wasteland takes out a Volcanic Island.
City of Traders in Josh's hand is going to make that not matter.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter. He's got a Show and Tell. He's got a Progenitus. Now the big question is, can with that Scavenging Ooze, Petcock can gain a little bit of life. It's going to take 3 attacks with Progenitus, not just 2. So, big question now. I think he just did the motion for I'm shooting myself in the head. I think he thought maybe he should have put in that sneak attack. The Scavenging Ooze, it really changes the math on this. It's kind of weird. He can give his Scavenging Ooze protection from a color. Any color, because Progenitus is all of them. An attack for lethal in 2 turns. Josh doesn't have the time to actually race him with Progenitus. Green Sun for 1 is going to get another Noble Hierarch, I believe.
Seems to make sense here.
Josh might have to just Force Will this. Now he has, does he have another land in his hand? Yeah, he does Force. Oh, he misdirects it. Yeah, misdirection. Force.
That puts him down to 11, though.
Yeah, it does put him down to 11. That's really not a big concern, though. The question is, can he play... this Ooze, I think, is lethal in...
Not this turn, but next turn.
Next turn, right. Even if he was at a little more life, it would still be lethal. The question for Josh would have been, can he play Sneak Attack, and can he attack with Progenitus and an Emrakul? But he just doesn't have the cards to do it. Second Show and Tell, not gonna do it. Here comes Progenitus. Usually you're very, very scared when Progenitus attacks. Petcock, he's a 21. They'll take him into 11. It's still another hit with Progenitus. And I believe that he has 1 more creature in his graveyard. So that will take the Ooze up to a 4/4, and that's 5 and 6 with the 2.
Yep, that's lethal right
it's
here.
Lethal right here, yeah.
And Scavenging Ooze, we've been seeing it all weekend. It has the ability to dominate games.
Right. Yep. Attack for 6. And Sneak and Show, doing what it does. And Josh Adams realized after he casted Sneak Attack, or after he casted Show and Tell, he said, "Whoops, can't race." And that happens. That's the downside of Progenitus sometimes. The interaction with Mother of the Runes,
Yeah.
He gets pro everything, but Mother of Runes can pro Progenitus.
But we're about to give away 3 free months of Star City Games premium content. Now, I'm going to ask you guys a trivia question. Here's how it works. And you will tweet your answers to hashtag SCG Premium right at the bottom of the screen there. You can tweet it to me, you can tweet it to Sam, you can tweet it to SCG Live. But if you don't tweet it to SCG Premium, it doesn't matter.
We won't know.
Now, right now we're watching a Maverick deck. Now, this Invitational was won by a Maverick deck also, but there was a major difference between these Maverick decks. And the person who won was splashing red for a particular main deck card that Pat doesn't have access to. I'd like to know what that card is. What card did Max Teed splash for that Pat Cox does not have in his Maverick deck?
Yep, it was an instant. Yep. In case there's some, because every once in a while there's like multiple cards. That we just don't think, oh yeah, there was that too. But this particular card is a main deck card. It's an instant, and Max was playing it. Pat is opting not to. So what is that card? I don't know.
Yep. Maybe you guys can tell us. Maybe. Tweet it in to hashtag SCG Premium.
Yeah. Put me on a copy because just so I know.
Yeah, I'd like to know too. Me too.
Yep. All right, and we're back. Pat Cox on the right. Josh Adams on the left. So sideboarding wise, I don't Josh doesn't have a whole lot, though he doesn't have a lot. There's a lot of decks. His sideboard is Shattering Spree, 1 Shattering Spree, 2 Magus, 3 Red Elemental Blast, 3 Grafdigger's Cage, 4 Leyline of Sanctity, and 2 Surgicals. And none of those do a whole lot in this matchup.
Not really.
You know, I think he can just leave his main deck. I mean, theoretically, he could bring in Magus the Moon and hope that that Pat Cox can be lose on basics. But, you know, maybe you take out because the misdirections are particularly not very good in this matchup.
Yeah, I guess I could see taking out Misdirection and bringing in the Magus.
You know, he has He also has Grafdigger's Cage, which stops Green Sun Zenith, but you know, there's not even a whole lot that really Pat Cox and Green Sun Zenith for, other than Gaddock Teague that does a whole lot. So, I think maybe you just leave it. You might just leave the main deck. Pat Cox, however, is not in that same situation.
No, he is not.
He has a few things. Let's see. He can bring in Choke if you like.
He can. Actually, you know, his sideboard's pretty bad here too.
It's not as bad, but yeah, he doesn't have a whole lot. Like, the thing is that his Swords Plowshares are totally dead.
Yeah, so he's going to bring in his Loam.
Yeah.
Just having access to Loam Wasteland is a nice way for him to interact with just about any combo deck where they're trying to get to like 3 or 4 lands, especially when he can interact with their other mana production also.
Right, and he can bring in Choke because, well, he has 5 cards he has to take out. Like, Swords and Path do nothing. So those need to come out. There's some other cards that aren't great, like Jit, but he just doesn't have the sideboard cards for it. If you want to go really deep, you could bring in Gut Shot.
Yeah, just for the one.
Just for the one. Hey, it's better than Swords of Plowshares in this matchup.
It certainly is.
As scary as that is. Aetherstorm Canonist? No, not really. It'd be a strange situation where that came up.
I just really can't imagine where you would want that.
Yeah, no, neither could I.
I guess you could bring in Choke. It's bad, but
I mean,
like it's better than Swords to Plowshares or Path Exile is.
Right, and that's the thing. Like, Josh has this Stone Nothing, and Pat has not
so many cards in his deck that are just completely dead.
Right,
and not enough cards to bring in.
But hey, he won the first match, right? He won the first match, so hey, like, you know, for him to have, you know, 5 completely dead cards, 2 more Jits to being mostly dead cards, and winning that game, good for him. It's going to help him out a lot. I think he has to actually sideboard out the completely dead cards for merely semi-useless cards. You know, he could Magus and Wasteland out Josh's mana base. It's not easy.
It's not easy.
Or not Magus it out, but Choke it out, Wasteland it out. Not easy, but gives you something to do.
Sorry, I'm a little bit preoccupied. I just looked up at Adam Kai's deck list here and saw Loyal Retainers.
Oh, right. Yeah. That's a nice one.
All right, Pat Cox leads the game off with a Mother of Urns, and Josh going with the turn 1 Brainstorm again.
Yep, he's looking, and it looks like he has a Show and Tell, a Brainstorm, and a Ponder. He did bring in a Magus the Moon. Looks like he has, is that a Progenitus? I believe it is. Now, he's just set himself up for a turn 2 Progenitus. And
that's pretty good. He does have the Maguses in here. So.
And it looks like he brought in his Surgicals too. I don't know how much I like that, but you know, right here, not going to matter. We saw last game Show and Tell Progenitus did not do a whole lot. This game Show and Tell Progenitus should be about enough.
I imagine it will be.
Pat Cox, I know he does have a few ways to gain life, and again, the awkward thing about Progenitus is it does its damage in batches of 10, so even 1 life point is huge. So Thalia comes down. Not going to be able to attack. Well, I guess you can give it pro-white an attack, or pro-green, or pro-red, or anything pro.
Yeah. Anything pro.
It can come in. And,
it's a shame that Pat's probably not happy that Thalia is the biggest monster that he can show and tell.
Probably not. Probably not.
Show and tell in school, you don't want to bring in like a hot dog.
Yeah, you know, everyone just gets like, oh man, my dad came back from the moon and brought me moon rocks, and you're like, my dog got a new collar. That's what that feels like right now. It's just like, I saw a movie over the weekend. It was rated PG-13. My parents let me see it. So Josh goes to 18. No play for Pat. I mean,
he's dead.
Yeah, he's dead. There's nothing he can do here. Let's be honest. Like, he's going to take 10. Script Ranger still can't block. Untaps Mother Runes. Gets in for 1 more damage. You know, if he can gain 1 life, he gets another attack phase, but that's not enough.
Yeah.
Not nearly enough.
I mean, even Mazavith
Nope.
is everything.
Mazavith's class isn't anything. A Jit will gain 4 turn, and 4 turn is less than 10. So, yep. Josh Adams in one of the fastest games we've seen this whole weekend. Turn 2 show and tell. Progenitus. You got something to stop it? Nope. Okay, well then.
There's not much that stops Progenitus.
There is very little that stops Progenitus. Phantasmal Image stops Progenitus.
It does.
Phyrexian Metamorph stops Progenitus.
It does. Yeah. Vesuvian
Doppelganger.
Perish.
Perish does stop it. I don't think Pat Coxover not running Perish.
I doubt he'd want Perish in his deck.
You can have him for the mirror.
Perish is pretty good against both of these people.
You can have him for the mirror. You don't play anything, and you're like, haha, Perish.
Got you.
Gotcha. You weren't expecting that out of the Maverick deck, were you? Yeah, but you know, and we saw Josh Adams bring in a few cards. Again, Magus of the Moon, not great, but I don't know what he took out. You know, I don't know what he decided to take out for it. The surgicals, I'm really not sure about. I'm not sure what situation you get into that you
want that.
Other than the fact that there is one cool thing that surgical does is that it's kind of like a Gitaxian probe where you don't draw a card. So you know you can just check the close real quickly, and maybe that's better than a Spell Pierce. I mean, or it's certainly better than Misdirection. Misdirection does flat nothing. Pacox has no way to interact with Josh's spell, so the best thing.
That's why. Like, why do you even want to look at the hand?
Well, no, but the thing you have to worry about is that he has no way to interact with the spells. What he does have, what he could have, is O-Ring. Theoretically, O-Ring stops Emrakul.
But they've seen each other's deck lists.
Oh, they have seen each other's deck lists. Well, good point. I do forget about that, and that means stone nothing. So, no idea why the surgical extraction's there. I mean, you need to take out the misdirections. Well, you can't take misdirections. Pitching to Force Will is something. There's some value in that.
More value in that than there is in Surge Cling.
Probably more than in Surge Cling. Magus is a little higher value. Magus, the other thing cool about Magus is it shuts down Caracas, which means that your Emrakul is more open to do its work. Turn 1, Pat Cox leads off with Savannah into a Green Sun's Zenith for 0 and a Dryad Arbor.
It's one of the reasons why Green Sun's Zenith is just way too good in these types of formats. On turn 1, it's a Llanowar Elf. On turn 2, it can be 3/3 or a Noble Hierarch.
Yep.
Or next turn, it's whatever you want it to be in the world.
Right.
And for 4 mana, you get like a 10/10 who Stone Rends them every turn.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Turns out, and this is one of those funny cards.
It's a wild card.
Green Sun's Zenith came out, and people were like, oh. Some people were real excited, but there was a lot of people poo-poo any card that's just not immediately good in Standard. And it turns out Green Sun's Zenith was a card that people were not looking at properly. So looking at Pat's hand, he's going to play a turn 2 Knight. Barring with a Caracas. So that means Josh does have a Magus of the Moon. So he is able to. Does he have a Sneak and Show? Does he have a Progenitus? He must have Progenitus. Yep, he has Progenitus. So, Pat Cox, theoretically, not dead. Neither roll card can get big. If you have the second Knight, he'll take 10. Maybe he can possibly race. He'd have to wasteland his own lands. He'd have to go pretty deep on it. He'd have to gain a life. But he's not. He's in a better shape than he was last game.
Very true.
Not saying a whole lot, but it is better. Pat is doing math. He's trying to figure out just how unlikely this racing situation is. He can't like it. Oh. He's double checking that this can come in. Sylvan Library. He's going to pass. All right, he's going to check. Is there anything here that lets me gain a life and get my Night Reliquary up to like 7/7 at least this turn. That's all he needs.
That's what he needs.
That's all he needs. 20 damage and 3 attacks. Really 2 attacks, I guess, because he can stack first.
And he can't attack here because
yeah, Josh Adams just blocks.
he'll just get eaten.
This is a better situation, not a good situation. And it is really frustrating sometimes when you play a deck like Maverick, and you play, some deck like Sneak and Show or Hive Mind.
This Sneak and Show deck might just run over this top 8.
Yeah, it really might. Like there are some matchups that are not as good for it, but you're right. Pat just doesn't have anything to deal with it. The Sneak and Show, as we've seen before, it can be inconsistent itself. So there's a chance that it might be, its own worst enemy.
It happens.
It does happen.
Battle through a lot of rounds. You have to draw out for a long time.
You do. And, one stumble here, and that's it. So Pat Cox looks at his top three with Sylvan, chooses one, puts it in his hand. Does he have some way to gain enough life to race this Progenitus? 2 mana. And we get Scavenging Ooze. Well, that's a way to gain life. So he is able to sack Dried Arbor, get a land, gain 1 life off that, so he gets 1 more attack step. That's one way to do it. Pays a green, sacks the Savannah.
Instead of Dried Arbor.
Yeah, instead of Dried Arbor. That's what I thought he would do.
Same.
Now, the problem with getting fetch lands is that you have to gain 2 life now. Because Progenitus hits in blocks of 10, so Pat goes down to 19. He's done the math. I hope he's done the math. I hope this is the right amount, but ooh, days. His math wasn't, was looking long to begin with, and now it's looking even longer. Island for Josh, in with Progenitus, Pat Cox. Down to 9. Now, he can sack this Dried Arbor.
Yeah, and then he can gain 2 with the Ooze.
Right, so he still has 1 attack step after this. That will put the Ooze up to 4, attacks Josh down to 16. Still pretty long, to say the least. Pretty long odds on Pat's side.
Ooh, Sacrificing fetch land.
Yeah. Now he's gained 3 life. Gonna need a Jit here, probably. That would do it. Inwazo's Jit on one of his creatures. Gain 4. That would keep him alive for 1 more turn. The next turn he can gain 4 more at least. 5, 6. Yep. Jit.
Makes sense.
On the Ooze, it looks like. Both will come in, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Pat Cox, not one to give up on a fight. I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah.
He is he's going deep. The thing for him that's looking up good is that Josh Adams has Magus the Moon. So he comes in for 10. Pat Cox removes 2 counters, goes to 2 after the attack. He has to do 13 damage this turn. 12 now that Josh Adams has sacked the Polluted Delta. He'll go to Volcanic Island. He'll play Magus the Moon. And that is just enough of a monkey wrench in Pat Cox Plains to really prevent even the most.
Yeah, no matter how good.
No matter how well he planned this out, no matter how perfect his draw was, this Magus makes sure it's not going to be enough. He would have to gain 9 life this turn.
Yeah.
Maybe if he put swords in, he left swords in, and that was part of his plan, that could do it. It could keep him alive, but I don't think it can keep him I do not believe it can keep him in the game.
Yeah.
We'll see what he has. The knight is getting big. It's big enough that next turn, or this turn, a sword's on it, plus the jet counters will keep him alive. Again, 1, 2, 3.
And that had to be Progenitus. That could not have been a Markle.
Right, could not have been.
And he only has 3 Progenitus.
And extends the hand. Josh Adams is the first winner.
Yeah.
First winner of our...
Coming into the semifinals. Fast match there.
Fast match. We might even get another one on camera. It was that fast.